Welcome into Duval Daily, presented by GinJag.com. I'm Jordan DeLuga. Thank you so much for tuning in here on Friday, December 13th. Shout out to my buddy Scott. Happy birthday. Friday the 13th. Hopefully it's a good one. Hopefully nothing too strange happens there for you. Hopefully it's not a full moon. Is Trent Baalke sticking around? This is not a topic that's fun to talk about for me because, if you've paid attention since 2019, when the Jaguars hired Trent Baalke as a personnel guy, it's like, okay, kind of weird. Promoted him as a GM. I was like, no. Why is this happening? Kept him around after the 2021 season. The absolute debacle where it was clear that this franchise had a lack of leadership. And I know no one wants to hear from Urban Meyer. But Urban Meyer was not the only problem with the leadership of this football team in 2021. I couldn't believe that after 2021, he was being kept around to lead another search. And the Jaguars, they wanted Byron Leftwich. Which, of course, that could have been a huge mistake in retrospect. They wanted Byron Leftwich, and Byron Leftwich wanted the personnel guy from Arizona, Adrian Wilson, former great safety. Baalke, he gripped that power and he held on to it, and the Jaguars moved on from Byron. It basically was reported that it was Byron or him, and he won. And they went and got Doug Peterson, which I thought at the time was a good hire, and I think it was a good hire for what they needed at the time. Was it the best possible hire they could have made? No, probably not. I mean, Kevin O'Connell, what he has done in Minnesota has been incredible. I also think, like, the puzzle pieces dropping how they did, like Kevin O'Connell being able to get Brian Flores to be his defensive coordinator, massive game changer for him in that organization. Right? But Kevin O'Connell, with what he's able to do as a leader and offensively, he would have been a great hire. So now we have reports that Trent Baalke may be going to be kept. And it's from Jordan Schultz, who does a fantastic job covering the NFL. Now, the whole kind of news cycle this week, it's been revolving around Bill Belichick, and Bill Belichick was one of those guys that many around the league thought might be interested in the Jaguars job, and many in the league thought that the Jaguars might be interested in Bill Belichick. Shad Khan being fascinated by, the pedigree, the championships, the leadership, the history there. But Bill Belichick decided he was going to be the head coach at University of North Carolina, which I will say this, I think that is a good thing for the Jacksonville Jaguars. If Bill Belichick had become head coach, he would have demanded too much power, and I think that it would have been given to him, and that power would have been worrisome for me because I worry about what he would do at offensive coordinator. I worry how he would want to support Trevor Lawrence, personnel-wise and coaching-wise. I wouldn't be worried about the defense, certainly, but that's about the only thing I wouldn't be worried about, quite frankly. And now you're seeing the way he's putting together the program at North Carolina, and I think that those fears that I had potentially about Bill Belichick being in Jacksonville are realized at North Carolina. So, had Jordan Schultz report on this week on The Herd. Talking about Bill Belichick, talking about Jaguars, Trent Baalke, The Herd with Colin Cowherd. So, Jordan Schultz said this: I think Bill was right when he thought that Jacksonville could be a good job because the owner would allow you a lot of control. He then said, now I don't believe they're going to move on from Trent Baalke. I think they're going to keep him. Colin said, that's problematic for me. And I don't pay attention to Colin Cowherd a lot much anymore. That's one of the first things I've heard him say in a long time that I agreed with. Then Jordan Schultz said, yeah, that's a big problem. But Trent has buddied up in a way that's commendable to Tony Khan and Shad Khan. He is indispensable to them. Doug Peterson will not be there after the year. The words indispensable kind of like shocked me to my core. Indispensable? And look, I'll say this. Even though Jordan Schultz does a great job, he's plugged in. The national media has been wrong about the Jacksonville Jaguars more times than I can count. Bottom line. I mean, even just this year. And so, one thing you look at, I think that where is information coming from? Where is information coming from? When something is reported, who does that benefit, that report being out there? That's one thing you have to consider. And so the Doug Peterson reports, that he might be fired after the Lions game if that didn't go well. Where did that information come from in all likelihood? I don't think it came from Doug Peterson's camp. Where did the information come from that Press Taylor was going to be the play caller in 2023, the day of the game or the day before the game, opening game? Did that come from Doug Peterson's camp? I don't think so. So, again, you just have to think about where information's coming from. And again, the national media seemingly generally just has no clue. And look, local media too. I mean, it's tight lips at the top with the Jacksonville Jaguars. It is. Especially with Shad Khan, it's just like people don't know what he values. People don't know how he's going to operate, how he's going to roll. So I will say this. Take everything you hear from the national media and in general until something actually happens or does not happen with the Jaguars coaching job, general manager job, with a grain of salt, because no one really knows. I don't think anyone is as plugged in as they believe with the Jacksonville Jaguars. I strongly feel that way. But if this is true, and again, I'm not accusing Jordan Schultz of fabricating or spreading misinformation. I think this is what he understands to be true, and it doesn't sound like it's far off. Like the fact that Trent Baalke is still there, it says something. After all these years. And yeah, I mean, I think it's easy for everyone to see that Doug Peterson won't be the Jaguars head coach next year. So when it comes to Baalke sticking around, I think there's a couple things you can look at and Trent Baalke can look at over this course of this year and say, this isn't on me. How about the fact that the Jaguars have been in so many close games? He can certainly sit here and say, look, if there's just a little bit better coaching, better game management, we'd probably be at least 500 right now. When you look at the injuries we've had, that's not too bad. We'd be competitive. Maybe we'd be right there in the playoff race if there was some better roster management. And guess what? He's not wrong. He's not wrong about that. But I'll also say there has been, 3 games? Yeah, 3 games that were completely embarrassing and that I don't think coaching made a damn difference. The Buffalo Bills smacked you. The Detroit Lions smacked you. And the Chicago Bears smacked you. And the Bears did that with a rookie quarterback with an offensive coordinator who was about to be fired. Okay? So, it's not all coaching, but is the point that the Jaguars with some better coaching could probably be a 500 team? Is that valid? I think it is. And if Trevor Lawrence hadn't gotten hurt, I think it is. I think the Walker Little and Garrett Bowles situation is a feather in Trent Baalke's cap. Trent Baalke, a couple weeks ago, out of left field. And, he's showing progress. He's showing growth. I think maybe we can start to negotiate contracts during the season. I can grow with this league. I can adapt. And that's what he can show Shad Khan, because he never did that before. I mean, Josh Hines Allen, superstar pass rusher. Nah, we don't want to negotiate with him. We're not even going to negotiate with him in January. We're going to wait till February. All right. But he can point at this Walker Little situation and say, hey, if we had gone into free agency without Walker Little under contract, we would have been in big trouble. And I got that done. And I got it done at a reasonable price. And now you go look at Garrett Bowles. He's not going to hit free agency. And his deal is basically double what Walker Little's is. Yeah. Trent Baalke has that feather in his cap to talk to Shad Khan about and Tony Khan about. I got this situation right. Because there's no other tackle. I mean, there are tackles in free agency, but there's no other tackles you would want to sign besides Cam Robinson, right? And, Cam Robinson's kind of an enigma because he has done a really good job against some really good tackles in the league. But then you see what Josh Hines Allen did to him when he came back here with Minnesota. I would much rather have Walker Little, who's younger, and I think a better football player. I think that the Brian Thomas Jr. situation and Calvin Ridley situation, even though it's a little bit revisionist history for him because he was trying to sign Calvin Ridley and the Titans just outbid him. So he had egg on his face a little bit because he could have also potentially had placed the franchise tag on Calvin Ridley had he signed Josh Hines Allen quicker. But now he can say, look, we let Calvin Ridley walk. He went to a division rival, and what's he done for them? Look at who I brought in to replace him, Brian Thomas Jr. What's he done for us, right? Feather in Trent Baalke's cap. Mason Smith making plays now. Feather in Trent Baalke's cap. Jarian Jones playing the way he is. That adds ammo to the arsenal for Trent Baalke. And I don't like that. I mean, I'm happy these young players are playing well. I don't like that all these kind of things are Trent Baalke, rungs on the ladder to seize power. I've said this for a while. I think at least the last couple years. I don't think that the biggest issue with Trent Baalke is talent evaluation, even though he royally screwed up the 2022 first round pick. Even though Trayvon Walker is a good football player, he messed that one up because of his core philosophies. He messed that one up, and he would mess it up again. That same situation, he would do the same exact thing, and he would be wrong again. But I don't think his biggest issue is actually talent evaluation. It's to me that he cannot and will not lead a team or organization properly. He is like living in the late 1990s. He's trying to be Bill Parcells. He will not lead an organization with a unified vision, with the head coach, with transparency, with kind of a brotherhood mentality. That's not what Trent Baalke run organizations feel like. It feels like this guy's in his corner, this guy's in his corner, and Baalke's just trying to outlast everyone. And I don't think he does that with malice or ill intention. I think he is trying to do his best, but he doesn't know how to lead. That's what I honestly believe. He doesn't know how to create this type of organization where it's, again, full transparency, unified vision, everybody for, all for one and one for all. I just don't think he knows how to be that person. And I also think, despite, actually being a decent talent evaluator in most situations, I think his roster building is awful. It's absolutely atrocious, and we've talked about that ad nauseum here. But a couple examples, just off the top, off the dome, the whole Walker Little situation. Why was he riding the bench as a second-round pick his entire rookie contract until a couple weeks ago? Why did you sign Cam Robinson to a massive deal the year after you drafted Walker Little? That didn't make any sense. Massively overinvesting at off-ball linebacker. Seeing what Arden Key and DeJuan Smoot did for you in 2022 and refusing to bring in legitimate edge help beyond Josh Hines-Allen and Trayvon Walker, except for Eric Armstead to be a backup defensive end when he needs to be playing on the interior, right? Crazy, crazy, crazy. Not signing an outside corner this year besides Ronald Darby. That was a huge mistake. The interior of the offensive line, I think Ezra Cleveland was good. You swung for the fences with Brandon Sheriff to be, when they first signed him, they signed him to be the highest paid guard in football. And at that point in his career, he just wasn't. He hasn't been. He doesn't have that push. That he doesn't have those young legs, right? Still a good pass protector. And Mitch Morse, you could probably say the same thing for the most part. But they just don't have that push, that energy. And so I think you've seen an interior offensive line that kind of lacks juice, lacks power. And you want to be a physical football team, but you haven't signed players to be able to do that on the interior. And then, at wide receiver, his plan has been awful. Obviously, getting Brian Thomas Jr. fantastic, but it's been egregious, the outside wide receiver talent that has been in Jacksonville. And even this year, there is no one qualified or competent enough to consistently play outside opposite Brian Thomas Jr. and create a threat. There isn't. And yeah, the Christian Kirk situation, good player. Evan Ingram, good player. Both of those guys are good, but their skill sets, they're not entirely redundant, right? But I think if you were going to sign Evan Ingram and keep him around, or sign Christian Kirk and keep him around, you should have focused more on the outside. It should have been more one or the other. Because you've got a slot only and basically another slot. Two guys that operate best closer to the line of scrimmage, operating in that realm. Intermediate, underneath. That's how you've used them, at least. He's going to limit their coaching search in a big way. There's no, if he's still here, which, again, take everything with a grain of salt you're hearing from national media, in my opinion. But there's no doubt about that if he's here, it will be a limited coaching search. And we've heard from others, national media-wise, that Shad Khan is likely to just clean house. I think James Palmer said it. He's likely to just clean house in order to give the Jaguars the best opportunity to pursue the best coach possible. We'll see. That's all I can say. We will see. But Trent Baalke, unbelievable stuff. Really appreciate y'all tuning in. If you enjoy the content, please like, subscribe, hit that notification bell. You can also check out genjag.com/shop, pick up some new Duval gear, become a channel member here on YouTube. Drop your thoughts in the comment section below. Let me know what you're feeling, what you're thinking here, Duval. Y'all have a good one.